First Contact Fiasco. The Meridian Alliance had been fighting the Voidclaw Collective for nearly 2 centuries. Countless star systems had fallen, billions of lives extinguished across the spiral arm of the galaxy. The Meridians, a coalition of 17 advanced species, had once controlled nearly a third of the known galaxy. Now, they were losing ground with each passing cycle, their territories reduced to barely a dozen core systems. The Voidclaws were relentless. Their bioorganic ships could regenerate mid-battle. Their quantum weaponry could destabilize matter at the subatomic level. Their hive mind tactical systems could process and adapt to enemy patterns faster than any individual commander could think. The Meridians had superior numbers, but the technological gap was becoming insurmountable. Nobody expected that the solution would come from a backwater solar system housing a species that had barely left their own planet. Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth exploration vessel Prometheus stood frozen on the bridge as the massive alien ship emerged from what appeared to be a tear in space itself. The Prometheus had been humanity's most ambitious project, a deep space vessel designed to explore beyond our solar system. They'd been traveling for just 3 months when the sensors detected the anomaly. "All stop," Elena ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Dr. Chen, what are we looking at?" Dr. Marcus Chen, the ship's lead xenobiologist, stared at his console in disbelief. It's artificial, Commander. That's a ship. And it's damaged." The alien vessel dwarfed the Prometheus, at least 20 times its size, with a crystalline structure that seemed to pulse with internal light. Parts of it were clearly broken, with strange fluid leaking into space and systems visibly failing. "It's a Meridian battlecruiser," came a voice from behind them. The bridge crew turned to see one of their passengers, Dr. Ilara Voss, a theoretical physicist who had insisted on joining the mission despite governmental reluctance. "And it's running from something." "How could you possibly know that?" Elena demanded. Before Ilara could answer, 3 more spatial tiers opened, and nightmare-shaped vessels emerged, organic-looking ships with spine-like protrusions and weapon ports that glowed with sickly green energy. "Because those are Voidclaw hunters," Ilara said quietly. "And they're here to finish the job." What happened next would forever change humanity's place in the cosmos. The damaged Meridian vessel transmitted a series of mathematical equations, a universal language, directly to the Prometheus. Basic communication, a warning, and coordinates. Then it sacrificed itself, detonating its core to damage the pursuing Voidclaw ships. In the chaos, the Prometheus slipped away, following the coordinates back to Earth with information that no human was prepared to process. Earth was now on the radar of an intergalactic war. The Meridian ship had accidentally led the Voidclaws to human space, and the coordinates weren't just a suggestion. They were a desperate plea for help from a dying civilization that had identified something unique about humanity. 2 months later, Earth's orbit was surrounded by Voidclaw ships. Humanity's primitive defenses were easily neutralized. Every major city on the planet was targeted by weapons capable of molecular destabilization. The message was clear: surrender the Meridian fugitive, or face extinction. The problem: no one knew what fugitive they were talking about. In an emergency United Nations session, Elena's crew presented everything they'd learned. Dr. Chen had managed to decode more of the Meridian transmission. They weren't running randomly, he explained to the assembled world leaders. They came here specifically. They detected something about us, about Earth, that they believed could turn the tide of their war. President Kamala Rodriguez of the North American Union leaned forward. "What could we possibly have that advanced spacefaring civilizations don't?" Dr. Ilara Voss stepped up to the podium. For years, her theories about quantum consciousness had been dismissed by the scientific community. Now, everyone was listening. "It's not what we have," she said. "It's how we think. Human brains process quantum information differently than any species the Meridians have encountered. We make intuitive leaps that defy conventional logic. We see patterns where there are none, and sometimes that creates new patterns. The Meridians believe this is why we developed art, music, literature, forms of expression that serve no evolutionary purpose but exist because we can imagine them. The assembled leaders exchanged skeptical glances. "You're saying they want us for our creativity?" General Hammond of the Global Defense Force scoffed. "I'm saying," Ilara continued, "that the Voidclaw Collective operates on pure mathematical efficiency. They cannot conceive of solutions that don't follow logical progression. And after 2 centuries of war, the Meridians realized they needed something the Voidclaws couldn't predict: human unpredictability." Elena stood up. "They don't want a specific fugitive. They detected our entire species as an anomaly. They want us. All of us. Our way of thinking." The realization hit the room like a thunderclap. Humanity wasn't caught in the crossfire by accident. They were being hunted because of their potential. The Voidclaw ultimatum gave Earth 72 hours to surrender. Conventional military response was futile. Earth's most advanced weapons couldn't even penetrate the organic hulls of the alien vessels. Nuclear options would only result in immediate planetary destruction. But Elena, Marcus, and Ilara had a different idea. "We can't outgun them," Elena told the Emergency Council, "but we might be able to outthink them." The Meridians came here because they recognized something in human cognition that could be a weapon. So let's weaponize it. What followed was the most ambitious collaborative effort in human history. While governments prepared futile evacuation plans and militaries positioned their limited defenses, a different kind of war room formed. Artists, musicians, game theorists, poets, quantum physicists, and children with imagination unfettered by conventional thinking were all brought together. Dr. Chen discovered something remarkable about the Voidclaw communication systems. They operated on quantum entanglement principles, similar to experiments Earth scientists had been conducting for decades, but far more advanced. Their ship's systems were all connected through instantaneous quantum links. "It's efficient," he explained, "but it's also predictable. They've optimized every aspect of their technology, based on mathematical certainty." Ilara nodded. "And mathematics can't account for human intuition. We need to introduce noise into their system. Not random noise, but the specific kind of noise that human consciousness creates in quantum observations." The plan was simultaneously brilliant and absurd. The kind of solution that would never occur to beings that thought in pure logic. They would hack the quantum entanglement network using Earth's primitive quantum computers, but with a twist. The computations would be guided by human brainwave patterns collected from thousands of volunteers, particularly those with synesthesia, artists, and young children. As the deadline approached, the Voidclaw ships moved closer to Earth, weapons charging. Global panic was at its peak. Religious leaders called for prayer, families huddled together, and many believed it was the end of human civilization. In a bunker beneath the Atacama Desert, Elena, Marcus, and Ilara activated their makeshift quantum transmitter. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't even supposed to work by any conventional standard. But it sent a signal, a chaotic, unpredictable, uniquely human signal, straight into the heart of the Voidclaw network. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Voidclaw ships began to shudder. Their organic hulls convulsed as if in pain. The quantum links that connected their hive mind were experiencing something they had no defense against: human consciousness, with all its contradictions, emotions, and creative leaps. It wasn't a victory. Not yet. But it was a reprieve, and proof that humanity had something the Voidclaws couldn't counter. As the alien ships retreated to regroup, a new transmission arrived, not from the Voidclaws, but from a Meridian scout ship that had been hiding behind Europa. The Meridians were waiting, Elena realized. They sent that battle cruiser to us as bait. They wanted to see if we could do what they suspected we could. The Meridian message was clear. We were right about you. Now we can fight back. Together. Earth had just been drafted into an intergalactic war, but for the first time in centuries, the Meridian Alliance had hope. Part 2. Operation Impossible Dawn. The Meridian Ambassador, High Commander Telex, wasn't what anyone expected. Rather than a towering alien overlord, she stood barely 4 feet tall, with iridescent scales that shifted color with her emotions and 4 arms that moved with unsettling precision. But it was her eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, that captured humanity's attention. They reflected light like diamonds and seemed to see beyond the physical. For 200 years, she told the United Nations Assembly, "We have fought a losing war against an enemy that adapts faster than we can innovate. We built bigger weapons. They evolved stronger defenses. We developed better shields. They created weapons that bypassed them entirely. It became a predictable pattern, a mathematical certainty of our extinction." She gestured toward Elena, Marcus, and Ilara, who sat in the front row. "Then your people did something no species in our records has ever done. You introduced true chaos into their system. Not random noise, but structured unpredictability. Human creativity." The Void Claw retreat was temporary. After the quantum disruption, their ships had withdrawn to the edge of the solar system, but sensors showed they were regenerating and adapting. More concerning, reinforcements were arriving daily. Earth had perhaps 2 weeks before the next assault, one that would be immunized against their first trick. "We need to scale up," Elena insisted during the global strategic meeting. Military leaders from every nation had gathered with the Meridian Advisors and Earth's newly formed Quantum Consciousness Division. "The first attack worked because it was novel," Marcus explained. "But the Void Claw Collective learns quickly. They're already developing countermeasures against quantum intrusion." Ilara spread out diagrams showing the Void Claw fleet formations based on Meridian intelligence. "They think linearly, cause and effect. They'll expect us to try the same approach, but stronger. We need to do something they consider illogical." High Commander Telex had brought gifts. Meridian technology that compressed centuries of advancement into packages humans could theoretically use. Quantum communicators, shield generators, even weapons that could penetrate Void Claw organic armor. But there was a problem. "Your physiology cannot interface with our systems directly," Telex explained, frustration evident in her color-shifting scales, "and we don't have time to adapt them." That's when 13-year-old Zoe Williams, daughter of a quantum physicist who had brought her to the facility when schools closed due to the crisis, spoke up. She had been drawing quietly in the corner while the adults argued. "Why do we need to use their weapons at all?" she asked, holding up her drawing, a sketch of Earth with strange spherical objects surrounding it. "Why can't we just change the rules?" General Hammond nearly dismissed her, but Elena recognized something in the girl's question, that uniquely human ability to think outside established parameters. "What do you mean, Zoe?" Elena asked. "In chess, if you're losing, sometimes you can flip the board," the girl explained. "My dad taught me that doesn't work in real games, but maybe it works in space. The aliens think we'll fight back. What if we change what here even means?" Dr. Chen's eyes widened. Quantum displacement. For 3 days straight, Earth's greatest minds collaborated with Meridian engineers. What emerged was a plan so audacious that even some humans thought it was impossible. They wouldn't try to destroy the Void Claw fleet. They would attempt to phase shift the entire planet into a quantum state that existed slightly out of sync with normal spacetime. Not permanently, Ilara explained to the skeptical world leaders. Just long enough to let the Void Claw fleet pass through where we should be. Like becoming briefly immaterial. "You're talking about making Earth a ghost," President Rodriguez said flatly. "I'm talking about using Earth's own magnetic field as a quantum displacement engine. The Meridian technology can amplify it, but the controlled chaos, the pattern that isn't a pattern, that has to come from us." The plan required the coordination of 7 billion human minds. Everyone on the planet would need to engage in an activity that stimulated creative thinking, music, art, mathematical puzzles, poetry, dance, Anything that activated the uniquely human ability to make intuitive leaps. Children would be especially important, their developing brains still unconstrained by logical limitations. Global networks were repurposed to distribute specialized media, music that contained patterns designed to stimulate specific neural activities, visual puzzles that activated particular brain regions. Even as the Voidclaw fleet approached, humanity engaged in what appeared to be mass entertainment, but was actually preparation for the largest coordinated consciousness experiment ever attempted. The Meridians were baffled. Your species prepares for possible extinction by planning. Telex asked Elena. We're not playing, Elena replied. We're synchronizing. On the day the Voidclaw fleet entered Earth's orbit, ready to unleash devastating weapons, something unprecedented happened. As billions of humans engaged in synchronized creative activities, the Meridian technology amplified Earth's magnetic field and temporarily shifted the entire planet slightly out of phase with conventional reality. The battle was brief but decisive. With the Voidclaw fleet caught between the moon and where they thought Earth should be, the Meridians employed weapons specifically designed to target the organic ship's regenerative capabilities. As Earth phased back into normal spacetime, the Voidclaw retreat had already begun, not just from the solar system, but from the entire sector. For the first time in the 200-year war, they had encountered something they couldn't process, a planet that could apparently disappear at will. The aftermath transformed human civilization overnight. Earth was officially invited to join the Meridian Alliance not as a junior member, but as a strategic partner. Meridian technology accelerated human development by centuries, while human creativity unlocked applications of that technology that the Meridians had never considered. Within a year, joint human-Meridian task forces were deployed to key battlefronts across the galaxy. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. The Voidclaw Collective, faced with an enemy that could now think beyond logical patterns, began to fracture as their hive mind struggled to develop countermeasures against human unpredictability. Commander Elena Reyes now led the flagship of Earth's first deep space fleet, with Dr. Chen and Dr. Voss heading the scientific division. And aboard every Meridian vessel, human advisors, including artists, musicians, children, and innovative thinkers from all walks of life, provided the creative insight that kept their tactics perpetually one step ahead of Voidclaw adaptation. They were on the verge of defeat, High Commander Telex announced at the one-year commemoration of first contact, until humans turned the tide. Elena watched from the audience as Telex continued. For centuries, we thought the key to victory was superior technology or greater numbers. We were wrong. The key was finding a species that could imagine victory when logic said it was impossible. Later, as Elena stood on the observation deck of the New Earth space station, watching Meridian ships dock alongside human vessels, she felt a tug on her uniform. It was Zoe Williams, now 14 and recently appointed as the youngest member of the Quantum Consciousness Division. "Commander," she said, her eyes bright with excitement, "I had another idea about how we might be able to communicate with the Voidclaw ship materials directly. They're organic, right? What if we could convince them they're on the wrong side?" Elena smiled. This was why humans had changed everything. Not because they were stronger or more advanced, but because they could always imagine another way. "Tell me more," she said. The war continued, but its outcome was no longer a mathematical certainty of defeat. Humanity had changed the equation by introducing the one variable the Voidclaws could never fully calculate: imagination.